Hello and welcome to another edition of Espresso Jams. I have with me today an executive director of Business Network International, and that's commonly known as BNI. BNI is the world's leader in word of mouth marketing with more than 291,000 members in 76 countries. Steve is passionate about teaching the power of referral-based sales. Steve is also one of the best-selling authors of a book titled Building the Ultimate Network, which provides cutting-edge ideas from experts around the world about how to develop productive relationships for business success. And Steve has been an entrepreneur all his life, starting at the age of 11. He wasn't old enough to drive, but he and some friends bought a car and they rented out rides or offered driving experiences. I won't talk about that. But at 11 years old, they put their money together, bought a car, and made a profit by the end of the summer. So help me in welcoming Steve Hand to the Espresso Jams. Hey, Steve, good to have you here.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. It's good to be here. Thank you so much.
It's good to see you. We've known each other for quite a while, and I am so glad that we finally got together to do a podcast recording.
You're listening to Espresso Jams, short, concentrated, delicious conversations about business, technology, and entrepreneurship. If you're just starting out on your business adventure, or you're a seasoned business professional, I'm sure you'll find value in these short conversations. Espresso Jams is brought to you by 𝐂𝐸𝐫𝐫, providing the tools, insights, and transformative structures to help you reach your business summit. I'm your host, Joe Matz. Let's get started.
Steve,
good.
Yeah, so you got into referral marketing. You began your entrepreneur life very early. Was that actual? Can I ask this on a podcast? Was that actually like a legal business?
No, and it was actually, if you look at it, was actually my second business, believe it or not. So I started my first business at the age of 8, and I didn't think it was business, but just a way to make some money. And in those days, the newspapers were delivered by kids, and I had like 50 customers, and I would deliver the paper. Now, the way it worked out is I officially bought the paper at 8 cents a piece and sold it at 2 cents a piece. And then if I collected any tips, I kept those tips. But it was a contractual agreement between an 8-year-old and a publishing company. Can't do it now, but that's the way it was back then. And in the city I was in, the newspaper came out right after school, which was perfect. I'd, get home from school, get changed into a little bit more working clothes, and then go to deliver the paper. So 3:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, paper came out. By 5 o'clock, I was pretty much done. Everybody was happy. It was great. And then on Sundays, the paper also came out at 3 o'clock, but that was in the morning, not in the afternoon, which was no big deal to me. I liked being up then. I just got up and did it, right? And every now and then they would give me an extra paper by mistake. And I found that the barbershop would buy any papers I had. So that was pretty good. So, and my tip for him, he'd let me pay the pinball machines. So it was a fun little thing. I think he liked having a kid in the shop, so to speak. So, but anyway, as we're going along, the kid in the next neighborhood could never get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so everybody's tearing their hair out. They're going crazy. And so he and I figured, well, I'll tell you what, you deliver Monday through Saturday and do both routes. And I'll do Sunday and do both routes, and we'll split it. And that's what we did. And so here I am working 1 day a week. He's working 6 days a week. Now he got to keep the tips. I didn't care, but it all worked out really, really well.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
then
great.
Another kid said, another kid wanted to do it. Within a year and a half, I had 8 routes like that. So I was doing 8 Sunday routes, and they were doing 8 weekday routes. And as I got bigger, I needed people to work with me. So by now I'm about 10 or 11. And so I hired my friends. And the way I paid them is I bought them breakfast. So my mom taught me how to tip properly. She was a waitress and a school teacher and taught me how to tip properly. So I would go into the Howard Johnson's right down the street breakfast is on me. And that was kind of the way we did it. And then we played baseball and football all day long. It was good. So
Now, I have experience delivering papers. Me and
yes,
a buddy and I took on 2 routes when I was living in Chicago, and we delivered
nice,
150 papers every morning. We,
nice. I love it.
it didn't come out at 3 in the afternoon, though. The paper up there came out at about 4 o'clock in the morning. So we woke up
I
early
get it.
and we
Yep.
were done by the time we had to go to school.
Go
Sundays
to
were
school.
a
Yes.
mess. Sundays because the papers were bigger and we had to put the inserts in and roll them up.
Oh,
And one winter, it had just snowed on Saturday evening. And my mom and
oh
I, oh my gosh, we spent hours delivering those papers. And then I quit.
you were done. Exactly. This is not for me.
But it was not as entrepreneurial as your adventure.
I get it. Yeah.
So this was before you bought the car.
Yeah, because that's what I leveraged. I leveraged my income from that. There was a kid, he was about 15, driving age was 16. So he was looking to learn how to tune an engine. His dad was an insurance agent, kind of entrepreneurial. He was a nice kid, got to know him. And so between him at 15 and me at 11, I was the youngest of the 5 of us. And so the car was a $75 car. My investment was $15. So I was a 20% owner. That was how it worked. Pretty easy breezy. And, it was kind of fun to tune, but we liked driving it. And where we kept it, the kid had a really big, long driveway. So, I was the first one to get it to 3rd gear, but once you do it, everybody does it. You know what I mean? So going down the driveway. Now, we found out pretty quick we had to take the mailbox out because it wasn't going to survive. And we had to make sure no traffic was coming because a lot of times you stop and you're halfway in the road. And we wound up having to reseed the guy's lawn across the street once or twice. So, it was just an experience. But every kid that we knew wanted to ride in that car. And so the deal was you could sit in the middle of the back seat for a nickel. You get a window seat for a dime. For a quarter, you got up in the front seat for 50 cents. You got to take it up and down the driveway 3 times. So, and I was the trainer. I would teach them how to, work the clutch and the gas and the brake and all that kind of stuff sitting on the front step. So, yeah.
Wow, I love it. You
And
had
you're right. Not
yeah,
legal at all, but
you had different tiers. That's very good.
yes,
I love it.
yes, exactly. Whatever the market would bear. That's right.
That's right. Oh, you can't afford the 50 cents? Well, we'll give you a window seat for a nickel.
That's it. You got it. You could have, if you wanted the front seat, it worked out. It was good for everybody. And as it was, by the end of the summer, we could have bought 2 cars. If we could have found somebody that would have, taken it for coins. But it was good experience. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
Yeah.
So, did you always know that you were going to be your own boss?
Oh, yes.
Did you ever
Yes.
work for
Really
someone
wanted to be.
else? I mean,
Oh, sure, I have.
okay.
And in fact, a friend of mine and I started a radio and television advertising business as a way to meet girls. So that was our process for that. And we did about a dozen commercials, kind of in the Monty Python style, but we did casting parties every weekend, and that was how I met my wife. And so when she came into my life, she said, "This entrepreneur up and down stuff, you need to get a job." And I was crazy about her, so I definitely did. And I, went into the technology world, at that point, pharmaceutical engineering, as far as computer programming. And I was a computer programmer until I came down to North Carolina. And then after 4 years, my job went to Florida. It was fine with me. But she said, "Wait a second, you're going to be moving every 3 years. We can't have this either." So I decided to, take the summer off, took the severance package. And, I kind of lined things up. I had some pretty good tech skills. I knew what I was good at, where I could work. So instead of going to job boards and all that kind of stuff, I just did my research and found companies that had 5 people like me doing the same job already.
Hmm.
And I found 13 of them. So that's 75 jobs. If I can't become number 76 or replace one of those 75, I should not even be considering sales, right? Or even living as far as that goes. So that's what I did. I just started marketing to them and started calling them up. I knew the buzzwords. I could, I knew who the decision maker was. So I was just, leaving voicemails and sending emails and things like that. And then I wound up getting 3 job interviews on the same day. But unfortunately, that was September 11th, 2001. And everything had changed at that point.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I had the interview with the first person because I was on the phone and she was in her cubicle and the towers were coming down, but she didn't even know it. I knew it because I'm watching it on TV. But the people in the afternoon said, Steve, this could be World War III. We're not even thinking about this now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
At that point, I said to my wife, I got to get back to being an entrepreneur. I can't, the corporate world is closed at the moment. So that's what I did. And one of my first clients, one of my first customers was a member of BNI and brought me out there. Said, this is great. How many of these can I join? You can only join one. You got to work it as hard as you can. And I would have joined 5 of them if I could. But to make a long story short, within about 6 weeks, I was number 1 in the country. 30,000 sales reps. I was number 1 week after week after week. And BNI is what did it for me. So that was the process.
Wow. Okay.
I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, sounds like it. Right. That's awesome. And so, so what are you doing now?
Just BNI.
Just BNI.
Business. Yeah. So what I focus on is helping people find business for each other. It's a lot easier for me to sing your praises and send business to you than it is for me to convince somebody to use my services, right?
Sure.
It's a lot easier. So if you're somebody who's competent, credible, reliable, trustworthy, you know what you're all about, I know how you can help them, we can make that connection very, very well. And that's really the key to it. So it's just a great way to do business. And a lot of my people, even though, I've got 46 counties I'm responsible, so it's a pretty big geography.
46
but there are people
counties.
Yes, almost a little bit less than half of the North Carolina state
Right.
of North Carolina. So
Right. Wow. Okay. So
And-
as
and-
an executive director, you're in charge of the local chapters. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly right. Starting them, training them, running them. That's my main area. So, yep. And helping them to work well together.
Right. Because I've
It's
been to
great.
some BNI meetings and I didn't see you. So
No, you won't. there's 35 chapters that meet all week, every day during the week. I visit about 5 or 6 a week, but when I first took the region over, I could visit every chapter every month. It was possible to do that. But now, especially on Thursday mornings, which is the big day, twice a year is about the most I can really commit to. So,
wow. Okay.
Yep.
So
But
you
some
work.
chapters I'm working every week to help them get started. So,
So what do you call the person then who is the local? Can I say leader?
yeah,
Sure.
sure.
What's the correct terminology?
We call the communities chapters. Each one is a chapter, and the person that runs it is the chapter president.
Okay, the chapter
So
president.
that's probably the terminology you're looking for, chapter president. Right,
Yeah, so
exactly.
you work with the
It's a
chapter president.
voluntary role. Yes, well, I work with the whole chapter, even individual members. So,
Okay.
yes. But the more I can help the chapter president, and we've got 7 officer roles in the chapter. The more I can help them, the more effective it is. So, because these people are to a large extent volunteers, they're running their business, but this is the marketing portion of their business.
Right.
And so you can think about those rowing competitions. Everybody's rowing at the same pace and in the same direction. A little bit of effort, a lot of payoff. So.
Okay. Yes. And what are the relationships between the chapters?
Sure. Yeah. So in some cases, chapter A would give birth to chapter B. So I'm here and I've got a colleague who's in my same business and they need to start a chapter here. And maybe 3 or 4 of the people start there and then they bring others in beyond that. So that's a parent and child relationship, but we want the child to grow as quickly as possible
Okay.
to be totally independent. So that's one relationship, but others, they're geographically together and they have the same culture because culture is different chapter after chapter. Some chapters are really strong in the real estate world. Some are strong business to business world. Some are, whatever. So the analogy I kind of use is like baseball, even though it's the same 3 strikes, 3 outs, 9 innings, all that's the same. Some teams are great on power Others are about stealing bases, great defense. So they each attack it in different ways. So the culture is different chapter to chapter, but many times chapters can work together really, really well.
Would you like to get in front of more of your ideal clients and at the same time build your brand and create evergreen content? Well, you can do that with podcast guesting. This very moment, you're listening to a podcast that may have been published today or 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago. In a very real sense, you're engaging with the speakers, hopefully enjoying yourself and learning something new at the same time. And you're getting to know the guest and how they help their clients, their customers, and the problems that they solve. You may even be their ideal client and want to learn more about them and download one of their free resources you can find in the show notes, or maybe even become a client of theirs. See, when you're a guest on a podcast, you will enjoy that same kind of engagement. It is perhaps the easiest, most cost-effective way to get in front of new audiences. Learn how you can be a guest on the right podcast and engage with your ideal clients with the free resources available at gapologist.com.
And I do have a lot of professionals inside the chapters that you may look at on paper that they compete with each other. They're both carpet cleaners, let's say, right? They charge about the same, they do about the same services, right? But if I'm over here in this town and this carpet cleaner is over in that town, I get a referral over there, it doesn't make sense for me to send my crew over there. I just give the referral to you. And once I know you're reliable and trustworthy and going to keep my relationship intact here with the person who gave me the referral, it works out very, very well. And as I found, we have about 4 of them in the area that do that. And what they found is they've been turning away business they couldn't do for a long time. They get a church, they get a school, they get a hotel. They couldn't do it. But now with the 4 of these guys, they can do it. They've got the crews, they've got the talent, they've got the ability, and they all show up one evening and get it done. So, yeah.
And I imagine between chapters and between members, there's a certain level of trust.
Yes, a lot of trust.
Even
yes.
if you've never met the person, you can trust them because they are BNI members, and there's a whole culture that wraps around the BNI chapters.
Exactly. Accountability is really is a key component. So we need to know that you're trustworthy, we can rely on you, you're competent, credible. And so a friend of mine was telling me he was in Ohio, and he didn't even think about it until he arrived. He had no business cards. So he reached out to a BNI chapter there. He said, I want to go visit a BNI chapter. And they said, come on in. The guy gave him 50 free business cards because he's a BNI member. And I see it all the time.
Yeah.
One of my realtors in Greenville received a referral from somebody in Virginia. They never met, but they know they're good. $3 million listing, the biggest listing of her career. Just came down like that. So,
wow.
And that's happens all the time, all the times.
So can we talk about some challenges that you faced when you took over your current role?
Yes, of course. Have you ever seen those old movies where the substitute teacher is in the classroom and the kids are, throwing airplanes at each other? And that's the way it was.
I've been there.
Oh, you've been there, exactly. So, I would walk into a BNI meeting. I had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea what they were doing. So the guy before was very good at starting chapters and getting them going, but then he moved on to start another one. So I had to really get them cohesive and work in the right way. So that was a big challenge. And, the first thing you mentioned, the chapter president, the first thing I did was make sure that the chapter president understood what to do and how to do it and do it right. What I missed is I assumed delegation, but I didn't teach delegation. So instead of the chapter president delegating to 6 others, the chapter president is doing the job of 7. And when they came up for renewal, they couldn't get out of BNI fast enough. And so all my talent was leaking out of the room as fast as they possibly could. So that was my second challenge, was teach delegation and things like that. So, but it's been a steady process, an evolving process. And, this guy right here has been in BNI for 22 years. He's my longest term member. And recently I was cleaning up the an office, and I found that thing. He looks like he's 22 right
He
there.
does.
So I
He
can't wait
looks
to
like a
put that.
very, very young, clean-cut man. For those of you who aren't watching on video, yes, very young,
Oh, that's right. It's
clean-cut.
not going to be video. It's going to be just sound. But yeah, so but I can't wait to put that in his hand. So that'll be. I think he's going to pretty much like seeing it. So
Wow. I imagine the picture on his card today looks a little bit different than that.
much different. Oh yes, he made me a grandfather now. For all I know, I don't know that for a fact, but yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. So,
Yep.
and Steve, how have you had to change? How have you had to develop to be the best that you can in your current role?
Sure. Yeah. So, it's I've always been somebody who likes to work together with people, but not in a, if you say, a boss and employee kind of role. But I did find that I was the bottleneck unless I had people working for me. So, you know, one of my members, and she started working with me, and we wrote out procedures and all that kind of stuff. And working with somebody like that was very liberating. So yes, I might be able to do it faster and stronger, but she could do it 80% of what I did, and I got hours worth of time, which I could then apply it someplace else, which is much more valuable. So that was a very big change. And then evolving through that, we've got about 15 people now that work with us in BNI. I'd like to double that because there's plenty of enough for everybody to do. But that has been a big change and very, very rewarding in a number of ways.
So do you have an office with 15 people? Are these full-time? They're part-time?
No, there's three that are W-2 employees,
Okay.
and the others are all 1099. And so the 1099s, obviously, they can go when they want, come when they want. They've got a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom. They used to come to my house, but when COVID hit, we stopped that. And now they're remote, and remote is working out okay. It's been some adjustments, but it's working out okay. So
Sure.
we're going to continue that. So
You're going to continue the remote?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it worked out well. So yes.
Yeah,
In
very
fact,
nice.
one of my people just bought her first house up in Philadelphia,
Oh, that's
and
great.
it works out well.
Yeah. So you have a business with employees that's taking care of all of your counties and chapters.
Yes.
Yes. See, I never knew that kind of structure was behind those weekly meetings.
Oh, sure. Yeah. What you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot below the water.
Yeah.
They're all properly trained, so to speak, and there's a lot of, and like I said, 76 countries. So, our software runs in all those different languages and all those different cultures. And, we used to keep our servers in Ireland, so they were GDPR compliant. We still have that in the software, but now it's in the cloud, so it's less dependent on that. So, but yeah,
Yeah, great. Yeah, Steve,
it's really good.
this has been a great conversation.
I've enjoyed it. Yes.
We're coming to the close, and I'd like to ask you what can you leave our guest with? Is there something they can walk away with? Do you have something for them?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So if you are interested in developing your skills on word of mouth, I wrote a blog. It's 52 weeks. Each one is just a short little post, and I've got it on my website, which I don't know how to get that to you, whether I just say it out loud or I'll
Say it
send
out
to you.
loud, and Steve,
Good.
we'll have it in the show notes.
Perfect. That'll be great. And so they can just go there, and it's 52 weeks. What I do is every odd year, I email it out to all my members, but it's there static. You can do it at any time. And you might go through it and then say, okay, I like this part. I'll go back through that again. It's available for you. Each one has the philosophy and a worksheet that goes with it. So it is possible to double your business in a short amount of time. I talk about that. It is so many ways to collaborate that you wouldn't even consider. And so all of that is in there for them. So I'd highly recommend that. It's on our resources page on our chapter on our company website. And so that is www.triangle, like the shape, TRIANGLE, BNI.com, B for Business Network International.com. And it's on the resources page. Help yourself. That's there for everybody. So
Yeah, wow, that's great. And I'm sure that is a great resource. I would recommend, if you're listening to this and you want to know how to double your business and get more referrals and just work more collaboratively, Go
Yes.
check out trianglebni.com.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yep. It was the way I became number one with 30,000 reps in the country. I was number one week after week. BNI is what did it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's helped a lot of people, and a lot of people have made a lot of good business, a lot of money with BNI.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
great,
Absolutely.
Steve. Once again, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for being on Espresso Jams.
My pleasure, Joe. Thank you so much. And you take care. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, sir. You too. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to Espresso Jams. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on your preferred channel and never miss another episode. If you'd like more business tips on technology, entrepreneurship, and doing better, you can find me on LinkedIn at Joe Matz, that's JoeMatz, or go to my website, 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤𝐢𝐧.com. That's apex-able.com. I'm your host, Joe Matz, wishing you an awesome day.